Now introducing the president of the Spina di Rosula, a proper Fontanian lady, macaron mommy, and the first Geo character to come out in almost 2 entire years, Navia is here. I've been stockpiling all my primos for characters I really want. And let's just say, I'm opening up the Primo wallet and I'm ready to spend. I am unbelievably excited about Navia. So let me channel some of that excitement into this video. A complete guide on everything Navia. I'll be breaking down her kit, talents, weapons, best artifacts, best teammates and team comps, and all of her constellations, and not to mention where she stands against all the other characters in Genshin right now. So homies, stand up, because a real lady's entering the room. My Navia in this video will be level 90, holding her signature weapon, Verdict, with talent levels 888, holding 2-piece Geo, 2-piece attack. Yes, there is a new artifact set that just came out that is perfect for her, but it's too early for me to have a complete build of that. We'll get to it in the artifact section. So Navia wields a Claymore and is a Geo DPS carry. This lady isn't just beautiful, on the battlefield, she is mean. Her entire kit revolves around completely obliterating everything in front of her with her Gunbrella shotgun. So let's explain that first. Navia's skill, Ceremonial Crystal Shot, unloads her Gunbrella in a massive blast that works off of obtaining crystal shrapnel stacks. You can see the indicator right next to Navia when she is on the field. Each bullet represents how many stacks you currently have. When you obtain 4, 5, or 6, they change into a bigger bullet respectively. You can hold a max of 6 stacks. Now, how do you get these stacks and what do they do exactly? You obtain a crystal shrapnel stack or bullet every time any team member picks up a crystallized shard. The bullets last 300 seconds, and whenever you pick up a new bullet, the time is refreshed. They pretty much last forever unless you go AFK. All right, so we know about these shrapnel stacks and how to get them. Now what they do is, the more stacks of crystal shrapnel you have when you unleash your skill, the more damage it will do. If you shoot the Gunbrella with 3 or more stacks active, it will do 200% of the original damage dealt. This effectively means we want to always use Navia's skill when we have at least 3 or more bullets in the tank. Shooting with anything less than 3 bullets is a bit of a waste. Each stack past 3 raises the damage by a further 15%. So 3 is the magic number. Anything over 3 is extra credit. This skill has a cooldown of 9 seconds, but it has 2 charges. Yes, you get to blow enemies' heads off twice. There's also a follow-up Usia hit on her skill. The damage is low, but it's something extra, and it has a bonus roll we'll talk about later. And finally, the skill has a hold and a tap version. Tapping it will fire the shot immediately right in front of you, but when holding the skill, you enter the A mode, which is nice, but the cool part is that you suck up all crystallized shards in an area around you. In a big heated battle, this is an awesome feature to pick up shards quick without having to move around and pick them all up individually. This skill is what her kit is all about. It is absurdly fun and does insane amounts of damage. Next up, let's talk about her burst as the Sunlit Skies Singing Salute. Navia calls upon the squad to unleash a giant cannon bombardment on opponents in front of her. It does 1 instance of large geo damage, but then periodically continues to deal damage to nearby enemies for 12 seconds. The damage of her burst is solid, but it's not at the same level of her skill. But the cool part about her burst is that when a cannonball hits an opponent, Navia will gain 1 crystal shrapnel stack, although it can only happen every 2.4 seconds, resulting in 5 stacks if all goes well. The burst has a cooldown of 15 seconds and costs 60 energy. So as you can see, her playstyle and kit revolve around gaining these crystal shrapnel stacks and then blowing people's heads off with them. There's one more very interesting part about her kit found in her first Ascension passive, Undisclosed Distribution Channel. For 4 seconds after firing her skill, all of Navia's normal attacks will gain a Geo infusion. This cannot be overridden by things like Bennett's C6 or Candace, and increases the infusion damage by 40%. So yes, Navia gains Geo infusion on her normals very frequently. I think this is a really nice bonus to keep her doing a lot of damage in between her bullet shots, but I don't think this turns her into a full on-field hyper carry like you may be hoping. 4 seconds is a short infusion time, and even with the 40% increased damage, Geo doesn't have reactions of the sort like Vape or Melt to amplify her normals further. So once again, this is an awesome passive for her to have, but most of her damage is going to be coming from her skill. So we can move from here to her normals really quick. She has a pretty regular 4-hit attack string with solid multipliers, but nothing insane, and her charge attack is the spinny Claymore one. But look at her, throw on the glasses and the charge attack. Damn, she's clean. So talent priority should definitely be as follows. Skill first, then burst, then her normals. Her burst skill level does not affect the shard generation or duration, only the damage, so her skill should take first priority. Her Ascension 4 passive, Mutual Assistance Network, is simple. For each Pyro, Electro, Cryo, and Hydro member in the party, Navia gains 20% increased attack, stacks up to 2 times. So yes, Navia is a Geo character actively distancing herself from other Geo characters. Even she knows they're cringe. Jokes aside, this passive will be active all the time. Most of Navia's best teammates are not fellow Geo characters, but we'll get there. And finally, her out of combat talent, painstaking transaction. You get 25% more rewards from Fontaine expeditions. Yippee. Let's go over a few need-to-know tips to play Navia to her max potential. First of all, Navia massively front-loads her damage. This means she does a ton of huge damage in 1 or 2 really quick bursts. She isn't a sustained high-damage character, such as someone like Yoimiya, Sino, or Utao, where they're a carry that requires a lot of field time to do all their damage. She's sort of the first of her kind for this role. She is a short field time carry. This just makes her teammate choices even more important since they're going to be spending a decent amount of time on the field as well. So let's go over a regular Navia rotation. This is all going to be very simplified because depending on your teammates, the amount of crystallized shards that you generate are going to vary, but I'd still say this is your normal rotation. Burst with Navia first and then switch off. This gives the party time to set up their burst, boosts, and elements to create crystallizes, as well as for Navia to gain extra shrapnel stacks from her burst. Then when the stage is set, come in and absolutely blast something with her skill. This itself will generate some crystallizes along with her burst that's still up, and some infused normal attacks to generate even more shards. Then fire another massive shot when you reach 3 or more stacks, and then switch back out for other party members to do their thing. Also, if you used your burst early enough in the rotation and you have enough energy recharge, you can use your burst again on the way out to prep bullets for the next rotation. But to be honest, a lot of enemies are going to be dead by that next rotation. You can even wait until your first skill charge is back to fire off a 3rd shot before switching, but most of your party's skills and bursts are going to be down by that time anyway, so it might be smarter to save that charge for the next rotation. So with this example rotation, you can see that Navia is more of a quick swap burst damage carry. She does all that she needs to do for the team in a short burst and leaves her teammates to fill in the gaps. Navia's energy recharge, like with most characters, is pretty important. While her burst doesn't deal massive damage, it facilitates her whole kit by shooting off geo attacks to create crystallized shards, as well as granting her a free stack every 2.4 seconds as well. So to get these easy bullet stacks from her burst, we need energy recharge. So I would say a super solid Navia would probably have around 140% ER or more, but this number is going to vary depending on your team. We'll get more into this in the team section. So Navia's artifacts are actually pretty basic. Her best artifact set is definitely the new set made just for her, Nighttime Whispers in the Echoing Woods. The 2-piece gives attack, and the 4-piece effectively gives her 50% geo damage when under a shield from Crystallize, which she will be almost all the time when she fires her skill when played properly. Now, if you're going to be using her with Farina, which is a great partner for her, 4-piece Mara Chowsi is going to be insanely strong as always. And 4-piece Golden Troop actually puts up some massive skill damage numbers. If you skill fast enough after entering the field, you can actually get the benefit of the 4-piece bonus on her boom booms. But just know it won't help her burst or her normals in any way, but it's not a huge downside. After this, I'd probably just recommend 2-piece sets with geo damage, attack percent, Golden Troop, or ER being the best options. 4-piece Archaic Petra is also a strong set for her depending on the team. While it won't maximize her personal damage, it makes her team do a bit more damage, which is nice. For her stats, it's very simple as well. We're going to want an attack sands, Geo Goblet, and crit or crit damage circlet, whichever you need. Even with Farina, a Geo damage goblet is still recommended since Navia just gains so much attack through her passives, and especially if she's holding her signature weapon. Navia also doesn't need an insane amount of energy recharge, so hopefully you can supplement her energy problems through substat rolls and maybe some teammates with Favonius weapons. But if you have an amazing energy recharge sands and you don't have any good ER rolls, an ER sands is manageable. Finally, for substats, we want the obvious crit stats to maximize her damage. She wants energy recharge and attack rolls easy. Navia's weapon section is going to get very interesting with one big sleeper weapon here. Let's start with her signature weapon, the Axe Verdict. As with any signature weapon, it's very good on Navia. It has insanely high base attack, it grants crit rate, even more attack through its first passive, and then boosts skill damage after a team member grabs a crystallized shard. Yeah, it's very strong for her. But do keep in mind, this weapon gives you so much attack, especially with her A1 passive in the mix, that external attack buffs like Bennett may actually give you so much attack that it's a bit overkill. Let me explain that better going into another amazing weapon option for her, Serpent Spine, especially at R5. Look, if you follow the channel or the stream, you'll know I sing the praises of Serpent Spine a lot. Why? Because it's broken. With max stacks up, this weapon grants 50% more damage dealt. along with its decent base attack and 27% crit rate. This weapon gives a lot of damage bonus without granting it through attack. So on teams with Bennett, Serpent Spine actually becomes extremely good, rivaling the strength of her signature. But her signature will outperform Serpent Spine by a decent margin when not using Bennett on the squad. All right, let's just get into the sleeper weapon I've been hyping up. After almost 3 years of Genshin Impact, Sacrificial Greatsword is about to pop off. If front-loading 2 super fast Navia skills wasn't enough, how about 3? Sac at R5 has an 80% chance to refresh your elemental skill, which for Navia gives a charge back. And also, if your initial hit does not proc the 80% reset chance, the Usia hit also has a chance to proc it. So it's gonna happen more likely than not. With Sac though, you're gonna wanna drop 3 skills with at least 3 bullet stacks each, which is definitely possible, but it's not super easy to pull off. It's genuinely difficult to produce that much crystallizes to supplement 9 bullets or more, but some teams, it may be doable. Sac also gives 30% energy recharge, as well as you using your skill again is going to generate more energy as well. So Sac Greatsword is actually a really cool option. You get 3 skills instead of 2, and it almost completely fixes up her energy problems alone. The negatives for sure are the crystallized production issue I just mentioned, and you need the refinements on Sac Greatsword for it to really be viable. 40% chance to proc the skill at R1 is not gonna cut it, okay? But you might just be lucky enough to have an R5, even if you're a free-to-play player. The new event weapon, Ultimate Overlord's Mega Magic Sword, is probably Navia's best free-to-play option if you don't have a high refinement Sac Greatsword. With Black Cliff and Tidal Shadow being okay stat 6, but they're not ideal. Back to 5 stars though, luckily Navia uses a lot of 5-star weapons quite well. Beacon of the Reed Sea is a fantastic stat stick, giving crit rate and lots of attack. Awesome for Navia. Redhorn Stone Thresher is a decent stat stick too, granting a ton of crit damage, and Navia supplements the low base attack with her passives and teammates like Bennett. The Unforged, for those who actually have it, actually provides a ton of attack and is super easy to maximize with Zhongli as a partner. Wolf's Gravestone grants an insane amount of attack, and when its passive is up, the numbers are wild. It's not fancy, but another super strong option on Navia. Finally, Skyward Pride is actually a really cool honor. It grants high base attack, energy recharge, and a small damage bonus. Honestly, all the 5-star weapons except Skyward Pride are just barely behind her signature in power. So if you have one of these, I'll be honest and say her signature might actually not be worth it, in my opinion. Now it's time for Navia's team comps. To be completely honest, Navia doesn't have an endless amount of team options like, say, Farina or Nahida. She's Geo, she is a short-time field carry, and she scales with attack. When you put all 3 of those things together, her team options are a little bit limited. Navia doesn't synergize well with many of the popular Geo support characters in the game, like Goro, Yunjin, or Noelle. But she does have 2 really strong Geo teammates in Zhongli, who's the best, and Albedo. I'm bringing up Geo because Geo Resonance is super good, and Navia only needs 2 of the teammates on the team to be different elements that can activate Crystallize to maximize her passive. So it seems like putting a Geo onto the team when you can is a perfect fit. I would say as of now, most of her teams revolve around these 3 supports: Bennett, Zhongli, and Farina. Bennett, he gives massive attack buffs and heals the team. Need I say more? Zhongli is beefy shields. Red Shred activates Geo Resonance and helps create more crystallizes with well-placed pillars, as well as helps supplement field time with his long burst animation. And finally, Farina, who, while she requires a healer on the squad, provides her massive damage bonus buff to Navia, which Geo especially craves, and applies Hydro off field for a super long time, making crystallizes easier to proc. So with that out of the way, you'll see that her teams frequently use 1 or more of these 3 characters. So let's start with National. I've heard the name Naviational going around, and I gotta admit, I think it's a little bit lame. So I'm throwing my hat in the ring with Spee National. All right, it's taken from the Spina di Rosula. It's shorter, and the wordplay with National is pretty cute. So hey, Spee National. Anywho, you can't go wrong with Xiangling and Bennett. And then with Farina in the mix, you're amplifying everyone's damage further, vaping Farina's hits, and generating more reactions. Bennett and Xiangling work so well here because Bennett's massive attack buff is huge and snapshots with Xiangling's burst, but the best thing is all these teammates do their thing off field, allowing you to set up and then come in blasting things apart with Navia. The one thing to note for this team is Bennett as the solo healer for Farina teams can be tough. I recommend running him with a healing build, running ER, HP, healing bonus, or even HP healing bonus. Staying on Noblesse is fine, or even running something like Maidens, 2-piece healing bonus, or the new set, Song of Days Past, is not trolling either. Next up is swapping Farina for Zhongli, dubbed Hot Rock, or you can even call this Mono Pyro if you want to. I like this team a lot. Zhongli's shield and his res shred are so nice. It cannot be understated just how comfortable Zhongli makes his team feel compared to the Farina team above. This team is slightly less damage, but way more comfortable. And if timed well, you can even drop a Zhongli burst with the Bennett buff still up if you're fast enough. Navia's burst does not slingshot with Bennett burst. So you can burst with her early and under your Bennett buff, set up Pyronado, double tap Navia's skill, and end with a Zhongli burst, all under one Bennett burst. I personally think this team is unbelievably consistent, really fun, and very strong. Something that's even more focused on Navia's personal damage will be taking all three of the above supports to create a Navia hyper carry team. It's even more Navia damage than the above two, but less team damage without Xiangling in the mix. And it has the same problems above of Bennett being the solo healer with Farina. It's a bit awkward to play, but Navia is going to do insane damage. A slightly more experimental team I've been really enjoying is Navia, Zhongli, Fischl, and Yae Miko. You could probably apply the foundation of this team to any of the 4 crystallizable elements, but this team works so well because of Fischl and Yae Miko being off-field carries. Weaving between turret placement, Oz placement, Navia skills, and Yae Miko burst results in super high team damage, all while generating crystallizes, setting up for big Navia skills. While this team doesn't result in Navia's personal damage being through the roof with no Bennett or Farina, the synergy of everything happening off field more than makes up for it, and it's really fun to play. If you're comfortable playing without shields, keep in mind you can swap Albedo in for pretty much every team with Zhongli. The team's overall damage and crystallized generation should go up if you place the flowers well, but no shields is a bit more annoying to play in this climate, and Zhongli's res shred will be missed. I personally think these are all of Navia's best teams as of now, but I may have forgot something, so get creative. Geo can be used with lots of different elements to success. I'm really hoping for more dedicated supports for Navia in the future that synergize better with her short field time carry status. Like honestly, a second short time field carry so that you can have 2 of them with 2 supports would be super sick. Now for my wallet warriors or my dedicated free-to-plays, it's Constellation time. As always, please keep in mind, I don't have these constellations unlocked, but I do my studying and my research as best I can. For C1, a lady's rules for keeping a courteous distance. This effectively restores 3 energy per bullet stack you have when you fire, up to a max of 9 energy. So with 2 skills of 3 shards or more, that is 18 energy back to Navia, which is almost a third of her burst. It is super beneficial for her personal stats. And the second part lowers her burst cooldown in the same way by 1 second per stack, max of 3 seconds off. This gives her burst 100% uptime, which is nice, but it's already pretty close to 100% uptime anyway. I give this a 3 out of 5 rating. Her C2 grants her skill a 12% crit rate increase per bullet up to a max of 36%. Once again, nailing in that 3 bullets minimum is key. It also grants a follow-up attack of her burst, even if it's not active when firing off her skill. This follow-up attack won't be able to generate an extra shrapnel stack because of that 2.4 second limit on her burst, but it is another instance of Geo giving you another chance to make a crystallized shard. This C2 does a lot and opens up her build to run less crit rate and even more crit damage. I'm gonna give this a big 4.5 out of 5 rating. C3 is her skills talent level up by 3. That's fantastic. A 3 out of 5 rating. Her C4 lowers the Geo res of enemies hit by her burst by 20% for 8 seconds. This is very self-explanatory. Lowering res is an awesome thing, especially for Geo characters. I give this a 3.5 out of 5. C5 is her burst, which isn't a huge deal. I'll give this a 2 out of 5 rating. And finally, her Constellation 6. If more than 3 bullet stacks are consumed, you know how important shooting with more than 3 stacks is, right? Each stack used past the third grants 45% crit damage to the blast and returns any stacks beyond the first 3. So if you had 6 stats, you'd fire off a massive blast enhanced with 135% crit damage and immediately have 3 stacks in the chamber after skilling. This is an awesome C6, especially think about this with Sacrificial Greatsword. Could be insane. This is definitely a 5 out of 5 star rating. So what are my honest thoughts on Navia? She is fun as the massive damage numbers just feel absolutely amazing to fire off. And I know it's not fair, I guess, to put this in my first impressions, but I just love Navia. I love her character. She's so colorful. She has so much swag. Playing her is so much fun, so I'm loving it. I think she is by far the best Geo DPS in the game as of now, and honestly puts up some huge damage numbers with fast Abyss clears, which I think having a Geo character get up there in terms of these really high damage numbers is super good overall for the Genshin roster. I do, however, think her teams are a little bit limited right now. While she is Geo, which means she could technically kind of be slapped onto any team, she doesn't really really pop off or shine on too many teams as of now. I think this might be a kooky situation where we're eventually going to get a dedicated support that completely pops off with Navia, or we get another super synergistic short field time carry 5-star to pair with her that also scales with attack, so that we can set up Bennett and Zhongli, come in with Navia and blow stuff up, switch to the other short field carry and blow stuff up even more, and then we switch back to Bennett and Zhongli to, you know, set up the shield and get energy and stuff. I think Navia is great right now, genuinely, but I'm looking forward to an even brighter future. Homies, that will do it for my complete Navia guide. Before you go, if you guys like this guide video, check out my full Farina guide or my full new Valette guide up on the channel. And please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more amazing Genshin videos just like this one, okay? It's not only guides, we got tier lists, we got highlights, we got everything. And I'm trying to hit 50K subs by the end of the year. I know it's going to be a close one, but hey, if we hit it next year, I will be just as happy. Big shout outs to the patrons who help make these videos possible. Zik, Sumi, Ken, Meow, Caldo. I appreciate all of you guys over there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And homies, I will see you guys in the next video, which is going to be our insane Navia polls if you're not in the stream today to see them live. All right, have a good one. I'll see you guys later. Peace, everybody.